All right, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. This time, I'd like to call this meeting of the Brooklyn City Council to order. Mary Jo, can you please call the roll?
Ron Van Kirk.
Here.
Meg Ryan Shackey.
Here.
Andy Selhertz.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Andy. Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Mary Bell Beer.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Sue Groenick.
Here.
Okay.
All right, thanks, everyone. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thanks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
United
America,
States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. This meeting tonight will begin with an opener by Councilman Kathy Pucci.
thank you. Dear Lord, we pray for a healing for our nation and for the end to violence. Please help us to open our hearts to our fellow Americans and try to understand each other's experiences and struggles. God of heaven and earth, you created the one human family and endowed each person with great dignity. Aid us, we pray, in overcoming the sin of racism. Grant us your grace in eliminating this blight from our hearts, our communities, our social and civil institutions. Fill our hearts with love for you and our neighbor so that we may work with you in healing our land from racial injustice. Let us now observe a moment of silence for the victims and their families of systemic racism, those who suffer injustice relating to their ethnicity, religion, gender, and sexual identity, and for the protection and safety of our law enforcement officers and first responders. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pucci. At this time, we would have the public session. However, there was no questions or comments submitted to Mary Jo, so we will go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda. We'll begin with our committee reports of committees, commissions, and boards. We'll begin this evening with our Domestic Abuse Commission, Councilman Ryan Shackey.
Mary Jo, did you have something to say?
Did you want to approve any minutes, Ron?
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped right over those. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Meg. Go ahead and give your report, then we'll do the minutes.
Okay. June 15th is Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Of the nearly 16,000 cases of elder abuse reported to Ohio each year, roughly 45% of those cases are classified as self-neglect. And as all cases of abuse, experts believe the numbers of reported cases are a lot higher. This year in particular was and continues to be ever challenging for our senior population due to being classified as high risk for COVID. Stay-at-home orders, the closure of senior centers, and the inability for both nursing homes and hospitals to host visitors has raised the potential for self-neglect and loneliness amongst the elder generation. Brooklyn has just one senior living facility, Brooklyn Point, and their Facebook page is heartwarming with the updates of activities and crafts for residents and the creative ways for them to see their family, including Zoom and window visits. Best of all was the parade of over 100 people that drove in their cars to bring smiles to the residents of Brooklyn Point, and let's be honest, to the entire community. Instead of the craft the commission was going to plan with the senior center, I'm going to ask all of you to help the commission in an action to bring awareness to this day. This year, I'm asking each of you to call or send a card to a senior that you haven't talked to in a while. This can be a friend, a family member, or a neighbor. A simple phone call or a card can go a long way. Thanks for taking part in helping the Domestic Abuse Commission take action. That ends my report.
Thank you. And as Meg pointed out, we did forget to go over the minutes to be approval from our last meeting, so we'll do that this time.
May I be recognized?
Yes, go
May
ahead.
I be recognized? There's a minor change on page 2 under my remarks, the 7th line. And we just need to clarify that I spoke of a letter written by a teacher to a senior. So
Okay.
if there's no other changes, I'd make a motion that we approve as amended.
Second.
To approve as amended, Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz, Andy Selhertz. I'll come back to him.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci? Thank you. Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Bell,
Yes.
Kevin
Yes.
Tansky,
Yes.
Sue Groenick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Our next report from our commission is from our Planning Commission representative, and that's Councilwoman Sue Groenick.
Thank you. Our meeting was on June 3rd, and it was a fairly packed agenda. We deferred one item on the agenda, a request for preliminary site approval for an addition to Loving Cup Daycare at 4476 Ridge Road was deferred for a future date. We passed several. These were passed as they were presented. A request from Wagger Signs for a wall sign for TRG Multimedia at American Road, at 1 American Road. A request for Ohio Machinery doing business as Ohio Peterbilt for a temporary banner for 6 months at 9500 Brook Park Road. A request for North Coast Architects for final site approval for the Avenue at Brooklyn at 4700 Idlewood Drive. And then 2 items were passed with conditions, and the conditions are on our agenda for a little bit later, but those 2 items are a request for Ohio Machinery doing business as Ohio Peterbilt for a conditional use for truck sales in a general business district at 9500 Brook Park, and a request for Premier Brooklyn LLC for a conditional use for truck and trailer parking for Ruan and XPO at 4600 Tiedemann for a limited industrial district. 4650 Tiedemann, sorry. And both of those are on our agenda later on. Our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, July 1st at 6 p.m. It has not been determined if that meeting will be in person or remote yet. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Groenick. Next up is our school board liaison, Councilwoman Mary Bell.
Yes, thank you. Just a real quick one. The school board welcomed a new superintendent, Ted Caleres, and I personally would like to welcome him and wish him only the best here in our city. And that pretty much completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. Mr. Tansky, do you have a rec board report?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay.
Recreation board meetings are canceled for June, July, and August. That concludes the report.
That was pretty brief. All right, we'll now move on with reports of council. We'll begin this evening with Mrs. Ryan Shaki.
As Brooklyn, along with the rest of the world, continues its battle against the COVID crisis, the murder of George Floyd reminded all Americans that racism still plagues communities around our country. I believe it is up to all of us to work harder to eliminate racism and anti-Semitism. Our community is a better place to work and live when we embrace diversity. The continued increase of the Hispanic, Asian, Black, and other minority populations calling Brooklyn home have helped our city thrive as well as add value to our great community. So let's listen as those who don't look like us or practice the same religion tell their story about how they've been marginalized and discriminated against in our society. Let's educate ourselves on racism, anti-Semitism, and discrimination. Let's speak out when we hear racist or discriminatory comments. No act is too small. Individually, let's do better, and together we will become a better society. Brooklyn is a wonderful community. If each of us steps up and does our part to work to end racism and discrimination, Brooklyn can become an even better and truly accepting and welcoming to all residents who want to call Brooklyn home. I want to take a moment to thank Chief Milkey for getting back to me on how Brooklyn has continued to work to ensure our force treats all with respect. Chief Milkey reported to me that our officers have taken part in trainings on topics such as cultural diversity, de-escalation, and use of force. The Coffee with a Cop program and the Bicycle Officer program that Brooklyn has are both great opportunities to create trust between our residents and our officers. The use of force policy that Brooklyn has and is reviewed annually, as well as after any use of force incident, helps to ensure that our officers are held to the high standard that they should be. I did not ask this, and I am not telling you this because I believe there's a problem with the Brooklyn Police Department. I've met many of our officers and believe Brooklyn and its residents are in great hands. I also believe that prevention is key, and that these preventative measures further help to keep Brooklyn, its residents, visitors, and our officers safe. Mr. Floyd's horrible death should require all of us to re-examine our actions and what we can do to end racism. I hope our discussion tonight is the start of Brooklyn's discussion. On another topic, the community cleanups are back. We have some new procedures so we can continue to keep our volunteers safe. Pre-registration with an electronic waiver is required as we have a maximum number of volunteers. Our first cleanup is on Sunday, June 28th at 9 a.m. Please contact myself or Andy Selhertz for details or to register. That ends my report.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Selhertz.
Just a couple of items tonight. Bruce and myself are going to be meeting with members from First Energy and also with Karen Olson for Real Term Energy. We try to continue the talks that we had about the conversion of the rest of the city with LED street light. This Wednesday, June 10th, from 4 to 9 p.m., Brooklyn Youth Football is holding a fundraiser at Canes on Tiedemann. Canes will donate 15% of the sales. All you have to do is mention a fundraiser when you're ordering. On Tuesday, June 23rd at 3:30, there'll be another fresh fruit and produce giveaway by Buzzard at the Rec Center. It'll start at 3:30. And as Meg mentioned, please, if you're interested, we're having the first of the community cleanups on June 28th. We're going to meet at the back parking lot of Giant Eagle. And we'll split up into two groups. One group will go to area around Ridge and around Bidoff Plaza, and the second group will go around Ridge and I-480 to clean up that area. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Selhertz. Next up is Mrs. Pucci.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for the conditional use stipulations that they required for the Premier Brooklyn LLC issue, which is on our docket this evening. As I stated in my remarks to the Planning Commission, this is the only time that we have the authority and the opportunity to make such stipulations. I do believe that the 50 trucks per day during the week and 58 trucks per day on the weekend is very reasonable. I would also like to thank Ruan for the information they provided us with today and assure them that this is the process we must follow to do what's in the best interest of our community. It certainly does not mean that we think any less of them. I'd also like to thank Chief Milkey, all of our police officers, Mr. Kolsar and Mr. Bear for all their efforts recently. I'm not going to name the street, but we had a very serious problem on one of our streets there were some renters, and they basically wreaked havoc on the neighborhood. There was disturbing the peace, there was violence, suspected drug activity at all hours of the day and night. And I was contacted by numerous residents, and everybody put their full attention to this issue. And we were very fortunate because we also had the cooperation of the property manager, who basically incentivized the renters to get out by a certain date. But I also want to give a shout out to all the residents who basically, when this started going on in their neighborhood, when some new people moved in on the street, they saw what was going on, and they basically said, we're not taking this, and we're going to do everything we can to solve this problem. Numerous residents contacted me every single day, many times, several times a day, kept me posted. I kept the police department posted about what was going on. And thankfully, we were able to get this resolved very quickly. And Mayor, just when it's your time for a report, if there's any update you can provide us with what's going on over at the creek at Sam's Club, I'd appreciate that. And that does complete my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Next up is Mrs. Bell.
Thank you. Several Brooklyn residents have contacted me this week expressing their concerns about the current situation in neighboring cities and throughout the country with the protesting, with the rioting. There's a great deal of concern and anxiousness regarding the future. I've discussed the residents' concern with Chief Melky, and hopefully, I hope shortly, I hope he will be able to address it and kind of ease all our minds about it. Secondly, I was so disappointed this past weekend to not see any mention in the newspaper. I mean, I looked at upside down about D-Day, and it was a little disheartening about that, because, that's one of the most important days in the history of our nation, and it wasn't mentioned in the paper. And I know I didn't overlook it because I kept on searching and searching. Absolutely no mention about it. So, we do owe a debt to our veterans, for all our freedoms. So, it was kind of very, very disappointing. And lastly, I met our senior director at Lowe's this past weekend. We were both shopping for flowers, Karen, and she was so sincerely worried about our seniors and how many of them are shut-ins and how many of them need to have some sort of personal contact and how important it is to call them. So the senior center, and I was so happy to hear this, is keeping in contact with so many of them and just seeing if they need anything, if they can help in any kind of way, and just to have some sort of human contact. And there are a lot of our seniors out there that don't have family, that don't have anyone really to call or care about them. And yes, especially during this pandemic time, it's vital that we do show concern and we do show interest. And, sometimes it's not always that easy. We have a million other things to do, but just a simple hello and how are you? How's your day going? Is there something I can do for you? Karen also mentioned that on June 25th, they're going to have another pickup at the senior center for the seniors. They can drive by, wave, and they're going to have a grab bag, probably with activities and some snacks. And that pretty much concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. Next up is Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. I hope everyone has been staying active and well during these past couple of months during this pandemic. The high school senior class at virtual graduation ceremony on May 31st. And a video was shown on YouTube as each senior walked proudly on stage to receive their diploma individually. I enjoyed the video and especially liked the ending poem. Quarantines, cancellations, online learning. Senior didn't end like you planned, but the class of 2020 is awesome. So it's time you all take the stand, ignore the negativity, and focus on good memories. They're bound to be plenty. You've worked hard for 13 years, so be proud. You're the unstoppable class of 2020. Through the present and future might be uncertain, these times are history in the making. No virus can erase all you've accomplished. That diploma is yours for the taking. So put a smile on your face and hold your head high. Whether commencement is virtual or real, the people who matter will be by your side. We all think that you're a big deal. Thanks to the teachers and staff for all their hard work and dedication to the students in the Brooklyn City Schools. I would like to wish every graduate much happiness and success in the future. Again, congratulations and best wishes to Brooklyn senior class of 2020. Go Hurricanes. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Tansky. Next up is Mrs. Groenick.
Thank you. Just two things. The first item I have, it has been posted on social media and through emails, but I just wanted to give another notice to any of our families with students who receive free or reduced lunch. Your child is eligible for the pandemic EBT program to receive SNAP benefits as a result of the COVID school closure. My understanding is this benefit is supposed to be automatically sent to you. But if you would like to learn more about it, if you need more information, you can go to the website at ohiopebt.org. And I just have a few comments about what's been going on lately. I'd just like to say a few words about these past 2 weeks, which have been difficult for many. Black folks that live in our community and around us, business owners, police officers, our elected officials, and those of us who have watched the image and worried about the outcomes. It's been difficult and emotional, but over the weekend, it began to feel a little more hopeful. I see colorful faces of my young students in those advocating for social justice and racial equality, especially the beautiful Black children that I teach. I pray that our communities can truly change and grow so that they have the same opportunities as all the students that I've had the privilege to teach. I worry that their lives will be shortened, and that would be tragic for all, but absolutely heartbreaking for those of us who know and love them. I feel that we are making progress, and I hope that we don't lose track of what's important to us and our communities. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Groenick. I would like to thank the residents of Brooklyn for being so patient with the reopening of City Hall and consequently our council meetings. As I stated in the last council meeting, I fully intended for this meeting to be live here in person in council chambers. However, the administration requested that some more time be allowed to put together a plan for reopening City Hall. And so at their request, we have decided to meet virtually again this evening. They have to keep up with all the state health department edicts that are coming down from Columbus. And so because of that request, again, we decided to hold this meeting once again virtually. And we hope to have things back up and running for our final meeting before summer break on June 22nd here in City Hall. So again, I thank you for your patience. With summer starting, more and more people are using our great city parks. Good news on this Wednesday, June the 10th, the city playground equipment will be once again be reopened. And so the weather has been so nice recently. And so I know many will be out enjoying the parks. And so I'm glad to pass that along. Lastly, I've received a phone call today, actually, from a resident that was concerned that Brooklyn may be considering dismantling our police department, as many of the council members in Minneapolis are considering dismantling theirs. 2 months ago, even mentioning that would be considered ludicrous, but unfortunately today it's not. I have also learned that if one person called, then there's others that share that concern. So tonight I can assure you that the city of Brooklyn and our police department have my utmost respect and unwavering support. I have worked with Chief Melky since I have been on council, and he's been nothing but kind and professional. His sole goal for his department is to provide safety and security for the residents of our city, as well as the thousands of guests that visit Brooklyn on a daily basis. The response time and professionalism of our department is to be commended. And as a city, we are blessed to have such a great team of men and women serving and protecting us. The city spends more each year on our safety forces than we do anything else in our budget, and that is as it should be. As long as I sit on this council, as long as our safety forces continue doing the incredible job that they have done for the 13 years that I have called Brooklyn home, they will have my strong and vocal support. At the next council meeting, a resolution will be introduced to thank our safety forces for their incredible work they do each and every day, especially during the COVID-19 lockdowns. To the resident that I spoke to today, and to the others who are concerned, I, as the council president, support our safety forces and thank them for their dedication and service to our city. I know that many in Brooklyn share that feeling, so I would encourage residents to write letters send emails, or make phone calls to our safety forces to show your appreciation for them. Now, in regards to, I've also received many questions in regards to the opening of recreation here in the city, and many of it's already opened. Is everyone, Mayor, are you hearing me okay? No? It's really bad. That's okay. Is it better now? Yes? Okay. So I'll go back to where, thank you, Mary Jo. I was saying, as long as I sit on City Council, as long as our safety forces continue doing the incredible job that they've done for the 13 years I've lived here, they will continue to have my strong and vocal support. I would encourage residents to Is it bad again? Is it bad again?
You're breaking up, Ron.
I apologize. Let me. All right, is that better?
That's better, Mr. Chair.
Very good. All the more reason we got to get back here to City Council chambers. But let me finish this again. As long as I sit on this council, and as long as our safety forces continue doing this incredible job that they've done for the 13 years I've lived in Brooklyn, they will have my strong and vocal support. At the next council meeting, a resolution will be introduced to thank our safety forces for their incredible work that they do every day, but especially during the COVID-19 lockdown. I would encourage residents to do the same, to thank our safety forces for their hard work. Right? So at this time, I'll turn it over to the mayor, and hopefully we'll get this back. Mayor?
Thank you, Council President. I have a few things tonight. Because of COVID, there's a few things that we've missed, and one of those things is honoring those who have retired or are about to retire. So if you'll bear with for a quick minute, I'd like to recognize a couple people who have already retired. One being Gary Hussack in our fire department. Gary began his career in the city of Brooklyn in March 29th, 1987, until his retirement here in March 24th, 2020. He was an exceptional employee, helped guide our community in times of need and urgency. Gary was a recipient of the Metro Health Excellence Emergency Medical Service Award in 2013. He skillfully applied his knowledge, training, and courage for the betterment of our citizens. So on behalf of City Council and myself, we wish him good luck in his future endeavors, and congratulations and thank you for our service to Brooklyn. Additionally, we had another loss in our fire department, which is Carmen Condonza, and he started his career here at Brooklyn December 22nd, 1991. He retired March 26, 2020. Again, he was an exceptional employee who helped guide our community in times of need and urgency. Carmen was a recipient of the Chris Holt Award from Metro Hospital in 2004. He was also a recipient of the Metro Health Excellence in Emergency Medical in 2013. He helped applied his knowledge, training, and encouragement for the benefit of our citizens and city. And so I want to thank Carmen for his service to Brooklyn. And lastly, I would like to congratulate Tina Westfall, who plans on retiring at the end of this month. She started her career here in Brooklyn June 1st, 1993. She'll be retiring June 30th of this month. Tina first started in our tax department in 1993, where she continued until 1997. And then she was promoted to the payroll coordinator at that time, which she worked until 2014. Then she moved over to the secretary supervisor at the Recreation Center in 2014. She served as the general finance person for Recreation Center, was the behind the scenes person for all park and ice rentals, Memorial Day parade, and all the community activities that we all hold so dearly in Brooklyn. Tina skillfully applied her knowledge and training for the betterment of our citizens and city. And on behalf of City Council and our community, we wish you luck on your retirement. All three of these longtime employees of the City of Brooklyn are missed and will be missed in the future. So I want to congratulate them, all three terrific employees. I want to congratulate Dr. Mark Ladkoff on his new position in Lakewood Schools down by Columbus, and welcome our new superintendent, Ted Caleres. I also want to announce that Brooklyn is the recipient of a COPS grant, so we will be adding another officer to our force. You'll see that on the next agenda. And Mary Belbeer mentioned this. Karen wanted me to pass on to remind seniors on June 25th, they're going to have a grab bag of activities and such between 10 and 11. So it's another drive up for our seniors. You could grab different games from our senior center, and they'll have some snacks. Additionally, she wanted to also remind seniors that we still have not had guidance from the state on the senior center. A lot of calls are coming in our senior department because the recreation center is open. So a lot of people are assuming that the senior center is open, and that has yet to be announced. On a recent phone call with the governor's local representative, she said that they do not have guidance. They are trying to protect seniors because they tend to be the most vulnerable population when it comes to the coronavirus. So I don't have any particular insight of when this will be, but we know that will be one of the last things opened up is senior centers. So I know a lot of the seniors are anxious to get back to normal activities, whether that's exercising, bingo, or just being together. It gets very lonely in the house all by themselves. So again, reiterate, if you have seniors, like Meg said, that you haven't reached out to in a while, now's a good time to do that. This can be a very lonely experience if you don't have that connectivity. And then the last item, if we are still closed in July, Karen and Kathy in the Senior Center will be holding a free ice cream day where you can drive up and grab some free ice cream on July 16th from 11:30 to 12:30. And that concludes my report. I did think I heard a question from Mrs. Pucci, but it actually cut out. So if you could clarify what the question was, it would be helpful.
Sure. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Just an update on what's going on with the creek over by Sam's Club. It looks like quite a bit of vegetation has been cut down along the creek banks. Do we have any information on exactly what's going on?
That was a private decision from the owner of the Sam's Club property. They feel like the water flow will increase with the vegetation gone. They felt like, excuse me, that during the storms, a lot of debris was getting stuck on those trees along the creek bed. Regional Sewer District does not agree. They feel like this is going to cause erosion, which it likely will. But in the end, they are being receptive. When I say they, I mean Walmart and Sam's Club are being receptive to some long-term planning, and they are working currently with our city engineer, Regional Sewer District, on the hope of creating some kind of long-term solution. We've seen the most positive response from Walmart, Sam's Club, and the owner of the Sam's Club property since the last two floods. So there is some good momentum. We can't control what private entities to do to their property, although it's not the cities probably want that they cut down all those trees. We can't tell them what to do, and they feel like it would help. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much for the update. And that was my concern also, the erosion, that as it erodes, that the creek could become actually more clogged and make the flooding situation worse. Thank you very much for the update.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Let's try this again. One thing else I wanted to mention before we move on to our director's reports is in regards to the Center. I've had several people question what's open and what's not. I'll read a couple of things here, but the best thing to do would be go to the city's website and click on Recreation Department, and all this information is found there. But on June the 22nd, the weight room, the cardio room, the group exercise classes will begin. There's lots of stipulations on the website about those. But July 1st, they will add to that list the ice rink. Still no good? All right. Well, I'm just going to forgo this because I'm having some issues. Our director's reports, if you can hear me. Mr. Raguse.
I think it's your Wi-Fi connection, Ron.
Good evening, City Council. I just have 3 updates for you tonight. The first update is in regards to Resolution 2020-1, go on second reading with adopting the tax budget for 2021. This remains unchanged from the first reading on May 26th and keeps the tax levies the same as current year. As part of my email on Thursday, I did provide a update on our 2019 financial audit. So that audit is wrapping up. At this time, the auditors have 2 minor verbal recommendations, both isolated instances, both immaterial. And in conversation and correspondence with the auditors, I do not foresee this changing as they have completed their testing and review of the CAFR. So they're just doing wrap-up procedures right now. And unless something does substantially change, I expect the city to receive the Auditor State Award with distinction for the 2nd straight year. Lastly, just a brief update on State Senate Bill 310. You may remember I discussed this as part of my financial report in the most recent meeting. What this bill will do is to allocate funding to municipalities with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic that we're experiencing. A brief update on that is that this bill did clear the House with some amendments, and my understanding is now it needs to go back to the Senate for approval by the Senate prior to signature by the governor. So we hope that this takes place in time for our next meeting on the 22nd, since part of this legislation requires that the city pass a resolution accepting these funds and to establish a separate fund related for this purpose. And that concludes my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raguse. The mayor allowed me to use my computer, so I thank him for that. So hopefully we won't have any more of these issues. Our second report this evening is by our building commissioner, Commissioner Kolsar.
Thank you, Mr. Van Kirk. Nice to see everybody. I just want to give a few updates. We recently closed the applications for the exterior property maintenance grant. That was on the 1st of June was the deadline for that. So right now we're going through and scoring all the applications, and by the end of the week we anticipate having letters out to the recipients. We had 96 applications that came in this time around, a little bit less than last year, but at this point, we should be able to handle taking care of about 1/3 of those applicants with the money that we have from the county grant, along with the city funds that we also allotted for this. Property maintenance inspector Marty Byer has completed the neighborhood that is just east of Ridge Road, running from the far south end of the neighborhood of Delora and up to Biddle. His next point will be going across Ridge and inspecting the properties running from Ira up to Biddle on the west side of Ridge there. And then to date this year, we've had a pretty good run of tall grass with the very wet weather to start off the summer, and we sent out 160 tall grass letters. So been pretty busy on that in that regard. I also wanted to let everybody know that the zoning board of appeals hasn't had any meetings through this, and there will not be a June meeting either. And the next meeting scheduled will be July 16th if it is needed. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colsar. Appreciate that. We'll now move on with our agenda for this evening. We do have two requests. The first of which is a confirmation of conditional use for Ohio Machinery Company. Letter, dear members of council, the Planning Commission at its regular meeting on June 3rd granted a conditional use for Ohio Machinery Company DBA Ohio Peterbilt for truck sales and general business at 9500 Brook Park Road. The following conditions were set. Fence and landscaping improvements will be made along the front of the property. All conditions were reviewed in 6 months. And of course, this does require confirmation by a majority vote of council. Are there any comments or questions regarding this confirmation this evening? All right, I'll make a motion for the confirmation of conditional use for Ohio Machinery.
Second.
To confirm, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Okay. Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz. Andy.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell.
Yes.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky. Kevin Tansky. Can I have you?
Yes.
Sue Groenick.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the second one is the confirmation of council for a conditional use for Premier Brooklyn LLC at 4650 Teeter Road. Dear members of council, the Planning Commission at its regular meeting on June 3rd granted a conditional use for Premier Brooklyn LLC for truck and trailer parking for Ruan and XPO, which is a neighboring business at 4600 Tiedemann, and a limited industrial district at 4650 Tiedemann. The following conditions were set. 50 trucks maximum per day on weekdays, 58 trucks maximum per day on weekends. The southwest rear corner parking area is to be paved within 1 year. And all conditions will be reviewed in 1 year. And the Planning Commission now requires confirmation by a majority of council. Any comments or questions regarding that?
Move to confirm the conditional request with the stipulations set by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Second.
To confirm with the stipulations, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Second.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Andy Selhertz. Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Yes.
Sue Groenick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, for legislation this evening, we have two items under old business. For second reading is Resolution 2020-1, adopting the tax budget for the fiscal year 2021. The next item is Ordinance 2020-19. We hope to pass by suspension of the rules this evening. This is authorizing the mayor of the city of Brooklyn to enter into a contract with the city of Cleveland for the use of the Ridge Road Transfer Station for the disposal of solid waste. We talked about this in our last meeting. Are there any further comments or questions regarding this?
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz. I'm sorry, Andy Selhertz. Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Yes.
Mary Bell.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Yes.
Sue Groenick, can I have that again?
Yes.
To adopt, Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
He's having a rough day.
Let me. Okay. Andy Selhertz. Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Sue Groenick.
Yes.
Andy
right.
was back for a moment.
Andy, just go ahead and say your vote now for the next one. And that way, by the time it gets to you, it'll come out. All right. Then under new business is thing is our legislation is ordinance 2020-21, and we hope to pass this by suspension of rules. This is to approve the 2020 replacement pages to the codified ordinances and declaring an emergency. These are just changes that have been made that need to be passed to the laws and ordinances. Any questions on that?
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Gonna be good.
okay, gotcha. Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Belvier,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Sue Groenick.
Yes.
Thank you.
I promise I did not sabotage this because I wanted to have this meeting in person. I promise it was not me. All right, before we conclude, I'm going to try once again to read these dates for the rec center. As I mentioned before, on June 22nd, the weight room, the cardio room, and the group exercise classes will begin once again with stipulations that are on the city's website. On July 1st, the ice rink will add to that list that's being opened. Then on July the 6th, the indoor pool will be opened as well. And right now, it's only members, pass holders, and resident drop-ins that'll be accepted until further notice. There's all kinds of stipulations and different hours of when things are going on. So I encourage residents to go to the city's website for that and click on Recreation Department. If you don't have access to the internet, just feel free to call City Hall and speak to the Rec Department, and they'll be happy to answer those questions. All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Butler.
Thanks. I'm sorry. This is Kevin Butler. I've opted not to turn my screen on because I think it may contribute to any lag. I just want the record to reflect that Councilman Selhertz indeed voted yes to both of the motions for ordinance 2020-19. Councilman Selhertz, could you just turn your video screen on and just give us a thumbs up so that Mary Jo can record that indeed that was your vote for both of those motions on 2020-19, the motion to suspend the rules?
I did catch his thumbs up on the vote.
On both?
I heard his yes for 19 then. It was after it, but he said yes.
Were there two motions for that particular ordinance, one to suspend the rules and one to adopt?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
Oh, no. Actually, I'm sorry. For 21?
Right. Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. We didn't vote.
I think I kind of lost it there. So let me jump back to that adoption.
So the record does reflect correctly that Councilman Selhertz voted to suspend the rules. Is that correct, Councilman Selhertz? Thumbs up. Thumbs up on voting to suspend the rules, Councilman Selhertz. Okay, great. So let's go back to the motion to adopt at that point.
Thank you, Kevin.
20-19. Thanks a lot.
Okay, to adopt, Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz, I see a thumbs up and a yes sign. Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Belvier,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Sue Groenick.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thankfully, that concludes our agenda for this evening. Does anyone else have anything to say? Please say no. No. Anyone else have anything to say? Okay. Well, then we will hopefully meet back in person here on June the 22nd. All right. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Meg Ryan Shaki,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz. Andy, your microphone's off and your camera. Yes. Thumbs up and a sign yes. Thank you. Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Mary Belvier,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Sue Groenick.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.